Welcome to another Auto Spec Renew video. Today we are in Denver at Farland, and the fantastic thing about those guys, they are rebuilding superb cars from all ages, all generation, and all types, from 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, maybe 12 cylinders, but more importantly for us today, with 0 cylinders. So tell us, guys, what have you done to this Mustang?
We've taken a kit from GT Electric and fabricated...
It's actually Electric GT.
Electric GT.
No, Tremec. So yeah, the company has rebranded as Tremec Electric GT,
Tremec.
And they are based in California.
And we've taken all those components and fabricated and fit them into an old Mustang, essentially.
All right, so the interesting thing is the first one, if I'm correct, first conversion you've ever done in his family-owned business, where traditionally you do high-end restoration jobs.
It's actually our second.
Second, okay. What was the first one?
The first car we did was a 66 Porsche 912.
Okay, interesting.
Same kit, different battery box setup, but same Hyper 9 motor.
Okay. So the Hyper 9 motor seems to be a fantastic option to start in the conversion industry. What were the challenges in building this system? Was it a bolt-on kit, or do you still have a lot of fabrication to do?
Yeah, lots of fabrication. The pairing of the, essentially putting a round motor into a square hole, and then building the bracketry and motor mounts and those things, connecting to an original drive shaft. So a little bit different than the Porsche build that we had, where we could connect to the original transmission.
Okay. So let's go through the different components and where you install them, because I find it interesting that the fairly heavy battery pack is at the very front of the front axle, which is not something you would typically see, but maybe the weight of the whole system might explain this choice.
Yeah, so when we took the original motor out, engine out, and weighed it, our kit actually comes in under that weight. So getting the larger battery as far forward as possible was really important to hope, to cantilever some of that weight to produce a similar ride quality in the front of the car.
Which means you will have to rethink the suspension system.
Correct, yeah. It's on coilovers now in the front that are adjustable to get, a closer ride height that looked appropriate, and hopefully drivability that's better than original.
So the nice thing about this system, it is an off-the-shelf system. It comes pre-wired with all the cooling system also included. What did you have to do outside of the fabrication itself?
As far as that, most of it's plug and play for the most part.
Right.
Everything has its own, specific connector. You can't plug one into the wrong spot. Everything's, labeled, and essentially you just click it all in.
Right. The hardest part of that is routing. So you spend more time planning your routing for the system than you do actually installing the wiring, because everything has to be from one end to the other, and we need to figure out the safest, reliability-wise, long-term, from rubbing, getting cut. If something fails, is it going to get cut? So we plan all that out rigorously to get to the point where we can start actually pulling wires through the car.
All right. So what was the best option you choose? Do you use the tunnel, the transmission tunnel?
Yeah. So actually, we fabricated a whole separate tunnel above the tunnel that essentially all the high voltage wires are running in, so that if we had a drive shaft failure or something like that, we weren't going to tangle up a bunch of high voltage
That's
cable.
very smart.
So, yeah, it's protected from front to back. If you looked under it, you probably wouldn't notice it because it's blacked out and it's, all made of metal all the way front to back. But yeah, it takes a lot of time to figure out if you can get that cable to go around the corner the way you need it to go, and then that box has to go to 8 other cables that all have to reach. So yeah, like Josh said, there's a lot of planning to try to get something to just go from a square to a square.
Through a round hole.
Yeah.
Speaking about the transmission, what solution did you guys use between the Hyper 9 and the rear axle?
So we had Electric GT supply us with a torque reduction gear setup that also incorporates a parking brake, and then it's split off into a custom-made 2-piece drive shaft that goes to the rear end. We've kind of stuck with the 2-piece drive shafts because they give us a little more wiggle room on getting correct angles
Okay.
instead of having to shift the rear axle angle to compensate for the way the car sits.
Did you have to replace the gearing in the rear diff?
We did not. Once we start driving it, that might be a different story, but hopefully we will not have to.
Okay. So this car was already completed and you did have the wheels spinning, and now you're completing the system, finishing the installation of the cooling system and the interior trim.
Correct.
But this should be finished in the next few weeks or a couple of months?
Yeah, we would hope so. Yeah, basically everything was fabricated in the bay, and the bay was modified significantly. So after we knew everything fit, then we took it all apart again, got it painted, put it all back together again. So we're in the reassembly phase of finalizing and tucking and zip tying everything, so it all stays where it's supposed to.
All right. Now, going back to the history of your company, your shop doing, again, high-end restoration, what was the 2 or 3 main challenges in starting your journey into converting more and more classic cars to electric?
It's just not as straightforward as doing a restoration. When you're doing a restoration, you have a part and you know where it goes, and it goes there. Doing this, everything has to be thought out, where we're putting components based on weight, where we're putting components based on wiring length because the harnesses are pre-built, or whether or not we want to dig into harnesses and remake harnesses to change where components go. All that custom fab work takes a lot more time than a regular restoration.
So in many ways, you are fully re-engineering the car.
Correct.
So, meaning also as a business, you kind of need to do several of the same vehicle to make up for the time you have to invest in man hours to design the system. So hopefully you will get more and more Gen 2 Mustang, or maybe the Gen 1 Mustang should be fairly close as far as the solution.
Yeah, the nice thing about muscle cars in general is they all kind of have the same layout. So, you know, even though this is a Mustang, if we did a Camaro next, most of this would be pretty close to the same.
All right. So let's go towards the back and see the solution you opted for to install the battery pack, because it's quite nice. You still have plenty of room in the trunk, and you found a nice way to implement the charge port right where the fuel tank used to be. So this required a little bit of cutting and in the back,
Yeah, so the original fuel tank was taken out, and then this pan is fabricated out of aluminum from scratch just to drop back in that hole, essentially. Yep, and then there's tabs that are made to attach to their battery pack so that it's physically bolted into the car.
So will you end up with a flat bottom?
That's going to be up to the customer on how far he wants us to go. One thing with electric cars that we've learned is it's that fine line between hiding everything to make the car functional versus the customer wants to see all the components and really see that it's electric.
Yeah.
So at the end, we'll kind of talk with the customer. We might end up making a panel to cover it, or we might leave it exposed so he can show all his buddies.
Yeah, he has orange cable in the back.
One thing I will add to your question is actually it's a consideration when installing a huge battery like this in the back. You know, we designed the pan originally was going to be slightly lower, but then rethinking, what if you hit something, right? It's going to hit that battery and potentially rip it out of the car or something if it was, a kind of bigger accident. So the pan is actually higher on the bottom so that it would hit the axle first and travel, past the battery.
All right. Did the body require any other modification outside of the few holes you had to cut to feed the high voltage and then the cooling system?
No, that was just the tunnel. The front radiator support has a lot of customization.
True.
And then this rear pan.
And it's Porsche 911 motor mounts that are welded to the original motor mounts.
Which the big reason we went that route is because we did that previous 911. We had such good results with no vibration being felt through the chassis that we knew those mounts worked, so we wanted to use them again.
Okay. This particular car, the customer, did he want you to convert his car because he saw the first 912 you've done? Or how do you get new customers with electric conversions in mind?
This guy reached out to us because he saw the 912 and saw
Okay.
that we were doing the conversions. He has a plethora of electric cars. He has a Cybertruck. He has the new Hummer. He has a Cadillac that's electric. I think he has a couple Teslas. So he is all about electric cars, and he wanted us to do this one first. And then we were in talks loosely about doing a G-Wagon as well for him. We will see. We wanted to get one done first.
Of course,
Talk
yeah,
with him
yeah.
further about potentially doing that.
Excellent. But it's funny how the business can evolve significantly
Oh, yeah.
with just one initial
Yes.
project, which could lead to many other ones. And you guys also, this whole project brought not only the conversion, but it also brought the job of restoring the car.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right.
What I've noticed also inside, if we can jump inside, is you are keeping the original interior, and you can hardly tell it's electric.
True. Yeah, that was actually really important to him. He didn't want to have a bunch of digital gauges and stuff sticking out. So like our controller here actually kind of conveniently hides away
Excellent.
under the original kind of Mustang finishes.
And you still have the original gear lever with
Correct.
a twist.
Yeah, this actually it acts as a parking brake more so than it does, an actual shifter. But for the functionality and look of it, all practical purposes, it looks like a regular Mustang.
And this is the actual gear lever.
Yeah, this is the driver for it, and I fabbed it into what would have been the original ashtray location. So it looks pretty modest, and then this was all repainted and paint matched on the inside as we restored it. So this looks like an original part,
Fantastic.
fitment wise.
Yeah, you fully made. Here.
Correct. Yep.
Quite a journey and adventure for you guys. Did you follow any high voltage training or training in general to implement a full system into a classic car?
No training. A lot of conversations back and forth with Electric GT. They've been very helpful with communication and giving us the information we needed to move forward. Any issues we have, we just give them a call and kind of work through it with them.
And they will be able eventually to fine-tune the programming of the car remotely.
Yeah, and some of that we do here too. We'll adjust throttle and all that to our liking, and foot off brake, all that stuff we can control with the computer. And
Did they help you finding out where the best solution would be as far as installing the various components?
that is all up to us.
Okay.
That was
We flipped stuff over several times and
Yeah.
then ran hoses to it and realized that hose is going to prevent us from removing the safety fuse that's in it. So yeah, there's a lot of just standing there and just looking. Do you want to have it in the middle so it looks symmetrical? But is there even room to have it all in the middle?
Yeah.
There's a lot of time spent, especially since it doesn't come with any of the back. All this bracketry stuff is all made, so that doesn't normally live on top of the battery, but that's where we put it. We had to get a super small custom 12-volt battery to still run the 12-volt system, and it fits, within a millimeter or two, and that's the only spot you have left, or it has to go in the trunk.
So when you order the kit, you received a list of parts and all the parts, but it's not as straightforward as installing it all, everything pre-cut. And
definitely
still,
not.
Yes, it's still quite some design and engineering.
Yeah, I think if you were going to take a kit like this at home and just want to try to make something electric, it would need to go in like a pickup truck or something where you just have a big open platform where you can make stuff live.
Plenty of room. Yeah.
There's so much custom welding and tooling and bending and shaping to make it look decent. There's no way to just put all these things in here and bolt them into something.
Yeah.
So,
but looking decent, it does. It looks fantastic. It looks like almost OEMs in many ways. So you
Yeah.
guys did a fantastic job. We haven't covered the cooling aspect of it. Obviously, right now there's no cooling solution. But did you have any particular system? Does it come with the kit, or did you have to design your own?
Comes with the cooling system. It's actually not in there, but this was fabricated to trim in the radiator is very, very small. And it's just a matter of the pump will be hidden back here under the wheel well. So, and the overflow tank is in the front, but the grill will cover most of that stuff. So it'll look pretty factory if the hood's closed and you're just looking at it.
Any tip or recommendation you would give to someone looking to convert their Mustang, or also to someone with a shop that wants to start their journey starting to convert cars to electric?
Plan it out as much ahead of time as you can. That's the hardest part. Have a plan and then you have to stick to it, because you're not going to be able to make changes once you start actually welding pieces in.
True.
Because you're so limited on space.
So just like any project, plan, and
Yeah.
cut.
And then add
weld.
another day of planning.
I think that's one of the biggest advantages of being at a shop that does everything. Having previously been at shops that, don't do paint or something, you can change your mind, cut something, and then have the painter come back and blend something in and make it look original again, versus having to have another part sandblasted or, tooling that you don't have at the house. So having everything in-house is pretty key, I think, if you want to make it look as professional as it does.
And you told me earlier you had about 200 hours in this build, pretty much.
I think there's 200 hours just in fabrication, to make the kit fit.
So that was my next question. How long did the whole project take, and how much was it in fabrication, in paint, in designing before you even touched the car?
Paint and body, I have no idea.
Yeah, paint body, I'm not sure either. That's a different department than us, but actual install time,
It's just over 200 hours.
All
I
in.
kept track.
Yeah.
Just of getting to where we are right now.
Right
That's
now.
not
So-
interior or,
right, and what will happen, I know this because we did this on the first car, is once the car is running and driving, we will find all the small issues.
Yes.
Yep.
And it'll be fine tuning all that stuff, which adds a lot of time. I mean, that's the stuff that really adds up. So,
Yep.
And that's also kind of a mystery until we really start digging into it.
So before you deliver the car, you will be driving it several hundred or 7,000 miles to make sure everything is...
Especially because it's going to California. So if we have an issue with it, it's not something the customer can just take wherever and get it fixed. It's going to have
be
to come to
100%.
us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we will put quite a few miles on it to make sure everything is above and beyond working properly.
All right, fantastic, guys. Do you have any other project outside of the potential one this customer wanted? Do you know if the Porsche you already did brought other potential projects?
I know there's a lot of talks, but I'm not sure of any exact projects. I know the guy with that Porsche has been driving it around. He said he was going to drive it in the wintertime, so
Okay.
he seems to not be having any issues with it, so that's good.
That's always good. No, on a more personal question, you guys obviously are in the muscle car world. What is your point of view with electric conversions?
On the right car, they're great.
Yeah.
That Porsche, because it was a 912, putting an electric motor in it made it better than a 911.
Yeah.
So that car was worth it. If I were to do more muscle cars, I would want to put big power motors in them.
Yeah.
This customer just wants to cruise, so it's perfect for what he wants.
On
But
the
if it
two-door,
was-
it makes sense. It's a
Right.
nice cruiser down the coast, the Pacific coast, fantastic. But as you say, maybe on the fastback, you would want a bit more power and put it down. What about you?
I built my own electric car like 10 years ago in a little Volkswagen pickup truck. So I'm pro electric. I think it's cool to convert something and build something different. I've never been a horsepower guy because I'm a Volkswagen guy. So
That's a perfect answer. What did you use in a nutshell back in the days? Lead acid batteries?
I bought a 1983 forklift.
Yeah.
And took a 90-pound electric motor out of it, and then just hooked it up to big deep cell batteries. And since I had the bed, I could just fill the whole thing with batteries. So it was slow, but I mean, it worked. It was pretty simple.
Right. So it shows the EV conversion is not a new thing. It's just blooming and becoming a global phenomenon. It's a fantastic time to be in the EV conversion world. Guys, thank you very much. And guys, if you like what you saw today, you want us to show more shops around the globe doing EV conversion, especially to this high standard. Let us know in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up, and guys, we'll see you in the next one.